Attorney, what is going on? There is a blame game right now. The DOE is saying that you did not comply with the so-called 4% reserves, basically saying that you are the cause for the brownouts or outages and the red alert that we have seen in the recent weeks. Why would, explain your side here, why would you not have complied with this mandatory requirement? Why is this issue only coming up right now?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of confusion going on, and it's such a technical issue that it's very difficult for an ordinary person to understand. But really, the bottom line here, NGCP is the transmission service provider. We only provide the service of providing the towers and the cables to transmit electricity from the suppliers to the distributors or the distribution utilities. While we do have an obligation to procure what we call ancillary services, or what most people call reserves, these are simply not the same kind of reserves that people tend to think as a backup if you lose electricity. These ancillary services really are meant just to balance the grid and are not for sale to the consumers. So our firm position is that the issue on the power supply here is really a shortage, and it's not a transmission issue. So it cannot be NGCP's obligation to provide the kind of power to replace the ones that was lost. Because under the law, we are not allowed to buy and sell electricity to consumers. So this is something that, we try to explain, but it's very difficult for the layperson to understand because it's really very technical in nature. Actually, something that I also want to point out is apart from the fact that NGCP should not be made responsible for supply issues, is that what the DOE is asking us to do is not to procure additional supply, but only to change the nature of our purchasing from what we're doing now, which is a non-firm arrangement, or pay only when needed and dispatched, to a firm arrangement, which is akin to a take or pay, which means that even if it is not used, it will be paid for. And this is actually the basis of NGCP's warning for the impending power hike if we are compelled to procure all our ancillary services on a take or pay basis.
What is the position of the ERC? Because they're supposed to be the ones enforcing such contracts, or the go between this requirement and what you're capable of providing. And are they aware of the percentages or the mixture of firm and non-firm agreements that you have ended up with, and how you calculated this?
Well, that's the strange thing about this whole arrangement, right? So when we are supposed to do the firm, it will not add to the power supply. In fact, the firm arrangements are there, and the non-firm arrangements are there, and taken together, we do have enough of these ancillary services. So changing the nature of the contract will not alleviate the impending power shortage. And the ERC at last week's Senate hearings, they did also have preliminary simulations, and they also show a possible rise similar in prices, similar to what NGCP has simulated. Now, that's exactly what we're saying, that based on our internal simulations, there could be a possible rise in a steep rise in electricity rates. And we're only asking for some prudence in the implementation of this policy, and to give the ERC an opportunity to really thoroughly study the impact on the consumers before such a drastic change in the procurement policies are implemented, which in essence will not alleviate the situation. It will just cause a rise in prices, but will not add anything to the current supply situation.
Just to clarify here, had you complied with this supposed 4% ancillary firm contracts, would this power issue not have, or outages not have happened, or would they still have happened?
They would still have happened, except that you'll be paying for more. The
Okay.
consumer will be paying for more. And the impact is, I think, enough that it should be looked into. It's not minimal, it's substantive. The impact will be substantive. Before we go into the ERC, I'd just like to mention that yes, this is going to be a long-term solution if you add power plants, which is why it's very important as the policy-making body for the DOE really to plan forward. We do have 5-year, 10 years plans. So what we're consuming today should have been planned 5 years ago. because consumption continually goes up. So the influx of investors into the supply market should be constant and should always keep pace, or at the very least, and or even outpace the increase in demand. So that's exactly how delicate the balance of supply and demand for electricity is. As regards collusion, it's very difficult for NGCP to say whether there was collusion or not. All we can really give you is the information. And on those days that where we suffered power interruptions, we noted, based on the DOE's data itself, that there was a loss of 4,000 megawatts to the grid. That's equivalent to 40% of your 30 or 40% of your total requirement for that day. Now, uh, out of that 4,000 megawatts, only around 300 megawatts was planned. The rest was unplanned and unscheduled, which is why everyone was taken aback and was surprised that this happened, because these were unplanned and unscheduled, and nobody really foresaw that it was coming. So those are the facts that as NGCP monitored it.